What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean, and if the title didn't give it away, we are going to be working on the Mazda Speed 3. So in this episode, I am going to be repairing a Corksport catless downpipe that I bought off of Kijiji. It's cracked on a couple of the welds, so I'm going to repair those welds. I'm also going to be cutting off the flange that mounts to the OEM catback and welding on a 3-inch flex pipe because this was a short downpipe and I'm going to be turning it into a long one. I'm also going to be installing 3-inch V-band clamps to make it easier to put the exhaust on and take it right back off if I plan on upgrading the turbo down the line. And finally, for this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to install the Autotech high pressure fuel pump internals. Now, I realize that's a lot to cover in this episode, so I hope you're ready. Strap in. Now, why do you need to strap in? You don't. It's a phrase people say, and I'm probably using it wrong. Now let's do some work. This is how I think this is how people film nowadays, right? You want it up high? Yeah, that's good.
So this is the Corksport downpipe that I got. It is catless, and I got this off Kijiji from a guy in Edmonton. I tried to clean it up as best as I can. Now, because there's still a whole bunch of carbon on the inside, I have to be careful when I'm welding it, or else these welds will be very dirty and the impurities will actually come through when you're welding it. Now, I'm not going to be TIGging this, I'm going to be MIGging it. So I've already tack welded this in 2 spots just to hold it together so that I have an idea of how this lines up. But you can see the crack, and it goes all the way around the entire tube. You can see that the dump tube for the wastegate is also cracked.
Now, I am in no way saying that Corksport does not do quality craftsmanship with their products. I bought this used off a guy in Edmonton, and he said that he had been using it for 2 years and then put it into storage, and when he took it out of storage, it had these cracks. So, once again, not blaming Corksport for this, although the welds do look weak.
So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to be cutting off this flange which mounts to the OEM catback, and I'm going to be welding on this flex pipe that I got off of Amazon. And then I'm going to add some additional tubing to the end of that and then weld on a 3-inch V-band clamp.
It doesn't look like it's extremely thin wall tubing, so I should be okay welding it with the MIG welder as long as I keep my voltage turned down a little bit. The additional tubing that I'm going to be welding to the end of the flex pipe, I'm going to be doing that while I put the downpipe on the car in the next couple of days. That way I'm able to figure out my full length for the entire downpipe. So now that I got that out of the way, let's actually do something. Okay, so now that we have our, why do I always have to say okay? So now we have our cleaned up downpipe. We have the OEM style flange cut off. I've already used the ridge reamer to try and clean off all of the burrs that were on the inside and the outside. And that fits right over perfectly. I'm just gonna keep the angle of the downpipe that it is. And I'm gonna tack it, and then I'll do the final welds and everything on it after I have it lined up on the car.
You got to let it go.
So now I got this all tack welded up, but before I can actually test fit it on the car, I have to do the much needed high pressure fuel pump install. So let's bring the car in and do that. Oh my God, it's a dad sneeze. So we're gonna do that high pressure fuel pump internal now. We're doing it in this part of my shop because the car bay right now actually is full of sawdust. So I didn't really want to get any type of sawdust or any type of debris inside the housing for the high pressure fuel pump. I figured this area is a little bit cleaner. I have a workbench to work with. Also gonna be doing an oil change because I really need to do that. So let's get to it. Okay, I'm literally in the middle of doing a oil change and I keep hearing this I don't know what the fuck it is. And I look up at the ceiling and there is probably the world's largest dragonfly. Or at least like the biggest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. But that thing is huge. I wasn't even gonna film the oil change, but I just had to show that. That thing's crazy. Okay, well I'm gonna finish the oil change and we're gonna get to the high pressure fuel pump internals. Oh my God, it worked. Where's my gloves? All right, I have to bear with me. My allergies have gotten really bad today. But, so I have the oil change done, so now we're moving on to the high pressure fuel pump internals. You need a clean area to be able to lay out all the internals after you disassemble the pump from inside the engine. So I'm gonna be taking off our intercooler shield thingamabob to try and get down to our high pressure fuel pump, which is right in there. I may have to remove part of our Corksport Power Series Stage 2 intake, but I'm hoping I won't have to, but it's looking like I will have to. Okay, so let's do this. So now we have our intercooler shield off loop. We can see that our high pressure fuel pump is right here, or cam driven fuel pump, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna have to open up our fuse box. There's a fuse in there that we need to pull, and then we start the car and let the car run and basically run out of fuel, and the car will shut off on its own, and then we can start to disassemble the fuel pump. Now, I know it looks like you missed a bunch of stuff in between this, and that's kind of because you did. I removed the battery box just because it was in my way. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to, but basically what happened was this hose that I have going to the crankcase ventilation system, I actually lost that worm gear down in there, so I had to remove the battery box to be able to get it out because it was just wedged in there and I couldn't get it out with anything. But now we have much easier access to our high pressure fuel pump. There's a nut right down in there that we have to get to, and we have to loosen that off, and then after that we'll have to unplug the electrical connection, and there are two more fuel hoses right here that will need to be disconnected as well. And then we can loosen off our Torx screws that
bolt it to the actual cam housing. So we got our high pressure fuel pump out. Getting the hose off of the bottom of that fitting is extremely difficult because it's a solid line. But once you get past that, it kind of slides out fairly simple. You just have to be careful with your O-ring, just to make sure you don't have any grime on there, especially if you are in some of the colder North American locations. You get dirt in there and you might score or something. So now we're going to be taking off this fuel line adapter, I guess you want to call it. I don't know. But it's just two T25 Torx bits right there. So in order to get that nut off, you have to use an 18 mil deep socket 1/2 inch drive. It has to be a 1/2 inch drive. If you try to use a 3/8 drive, it will not clear this collar. Ask me how I found that out. No, please don't. It's embarrassing as hell. Oh, what's that doing here? Well, I guess we're going to be installing a Corksport bypass valve today as well. So now we have all of our stuff disassembled and we're able to clean it with some non-chlorinated brake cleaner. So I just use that stuff. Gonna have to pull this apart a little bit further. Basically, this lifter right there, or retainer, basically just lifts out like that, and this will come apart. And then we can set aside the, I want to say, piston follower, whatever. Set aside that, and we have our new parts. And this is the new pump internal. Set that all aside there. And now let's clean our stuff. You can actually see the wear on that piston. That's crazy. Fuck! It's okay, it's the old one. We're fine. So now I'm just putting some oil on the shaft of the piston, just so that slides in easily without scoring the inside of the collar, because you don't want that. And then do the same thing with the retainer. Those both slide in like that. And then as you push the piston in, it locks in place. I just put some oil on the O-ring. The new piston internals are installed, and now we have to torque it down to 35 foot-pounds.
We have the fitting with the hose attached to it, and we're going back in. Prepare for insertion.
I don't have any bolts left. Yeah. So the car is back together. It's really dark outside. I am going to prime the fuel pump right now. Here's hoping nothing blows up, because I had issues. Everybody has issues. Mine not always with the car. So I heard the fuel pump primed twice, but now I want to go check for leaks. So the good news is, on initial inspection, there's no leaks or anything there. Now we get to start it. Alright, so our idle of the high pressure fuel pump is just below 500 psi, and I'm up to temperature now. I'm not cold, so I'd like to think that that was a job well done. So I know I didn't show this, but when I was putting the fuel pump back in, I actually had one of those issues that not everybody gets. It's kind of hit or miss, but I basically could not get the high pressure fuel pump back into that little bore on the actual cam tower. In my case, what happened is when I took out the high pressure fuel pump, it actually compressed the lifter that goes over the spring. It pushed it forward, and then the lifter shot back into the bore of that hole. So when I went to go push the high pressure fuel pump back in, the spring and where the retainer actually meets the inside of that lifter, where it's getting pushed by that cam lobe, the lifter was right at the front of the bore, so I couldn't actually push it all the way through. I actually had to tap it with a rubber mallet to actually get it back into the hole so I could fit the whole high pressure fuel pump inside without it just pushing back against me, and so I could get the bolts threaded in. Now, one of the other issues that some people have is that depending on where the rotation of the engine is when you shut it off, or when it dies after you're bleeding off the fuel pressure, depending on the position that the engine stops, the cam lobe will actually be pushing against the high pressure fuel pump. So as you're loosening it off, there's actually tension against the whole assembly. If that's the case, when you go to put it back together, you'll have to actually get a wrench and put it on the crankshaft bolt and rotate the whole engine over until you feel that there's no resistance against the high pressure fuel pump as you're trying to put it back in the bore. Now, because of that issue, this actually went on far too long, which is why it went from bright and sunny outside to dark. That was a whole day just doing that. So in a future episode, you'll actually see me putting the downpipe on the car and finishing that off with the 3-inch V-band clamp leading into the catback. Now, if you actually stuck around and watched the whole episode, I just want to say thank you. I realize that some of my episodes can go really long.
but that's because I don't know how to edit videos properly and I can't really discern what I should and should not keep in the videos. So thank you if you stuck around and watched the whole episode, and if I helped you, let me know. I realize this isn't really a how-to video so much as it is just me screwing around with my car and then putting it on the internet. But hey, if I helped you out, just let me know in the comments. And I actually recently started an Instagram for SBS. I'm gonna put that here, so I don't really know how to edit video, so I don't know where I'm gonna put that. I imagine it's just gonna appear here somewhere. Yep. Follow me at SBS Cars. That's probably the easiest thing. If you like the content on this YouTube channel, then you're probably gonna like the content on the Instagram page, because it's basically more of the same, but less of me talking. Actually, none of me talking. I don't talk at all on Instagram. If you find that you actually liked this episode, and if you've seen some of my other videos and you like those too, hey, consider subscribing, or at least click the like button just to let me know that I'm doing a good job, or if I'm just doing absolutely terrible work, also let me know in the comments. You know, I like to improve what I'm doing. I don't always want to do the same exact thing. I don't write scripts or anything. I just mumble out the mouth. So let me know what I'm doing wrong. So like, subscribe, follow, and I will see you guys very soon.